Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is leading off. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Dinger Dan Harris, and he earned his name last night by getting back on the board with my sloppy seconds of Fernando Tatis after the night I picked him. You picked him, and he went yard. Dinger Dan's got a smile on his face. He is back. Of course, none of us are ever going to capture the one spot again because Dr. Glenn is just in a different universe, but it doesn't matter. We've got a lot of baseball to break down today. Injuries, pitching, and some big discussions to be had. But Dan Harris, how does it feel to get off the schneid, my friend?
Really good. Really good. I won't lie. I don't care that I picked chalk. What's funny, Joe, is, of course, again, we talk about the Discord and everybody's sort of calling it out there. But I got text messages from like 7 different friends was like, Dan, congratulations, you're back on the train. I'm like, oh, so this is just like a thing now, huh? I mean, the home run calls, it's fun. Yes, it was great. And I forget, it's really silly, but the feeling when you nail a home run call, it's like the best feeling in fantasy so far. So yes, I'm very happy. I'm ready to go for a second straight day.
As middle-aged men and dads, there's very little joy we have left. I mean, this is it. Like, you get a home run call, right? You're like, yes, good, all right, I'm going to sleep well tonight. Well, Tyler Glasnow is not sleeping well, especially if he's sleeping on his elbow. We'll get to that. But let's do some ups first. Let's do positive. Taijuan Walker, who was our highlighted DFS pitcher yesterday. We talked about him against the Cubs. Career high, 12 strikeouts. He had 69 FanDuel points. Guess the roster percentage in the big tournament for Taijuan Walker. You want to guess? Take a guess. Go ahead. Take a guess.
I hate when you make me guess. 15%.
Lower, Bob.
Wow. 10.
10.2
wow,
or
all
10.8,
right.
something like that. So if you listened here and you were playing, and I'll do you one better, had a few shares, right? I had a Taijuan Walker lineup that did not cash. How did that happen? It had Jose Ramirez, it had Vlad Guerrero, it had all these good pieces that look good. Now, none of it works. So, see, you're a loser just like me when you play DFS. It's okay, everybody. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But hopefully if you had Taijuan Walker, you won. Chances are you did okay. Fernando Tatis Jr. hit his 20th home run just for Dan Harris. That's beautiful. And Paul Goldschmidt, Goldie, getting the walk-off. Good night for Goldie. Let's hope this builds some confidence. That's the positives. But I want to start with Taijuan Walker here because last year in the 60-game season, there were some guys that made progress. Austin Riley, Jared Walsh, Taijuan Walker. And I think most of the fantasy community, especially the stat nerd community, wrote it off as the small sample size. And you know what? The teams and everybody that went out and acquired those players this year in the offseason, both in real baseball and in fantasy, I think they're pretty happy because the real progress was made. I watched that Taijuan Walker start yesterday, start to finish. It was impeccable, and I think he has been one of the most important signings in Major League Baseball of any team this offseason. Your thoughts on Taijuan Walker finally emerging as, I dare I say, an ace?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, if you can put away any injury concerns, and again, those are present because he has had a pretty injury. But where we are now, Joe, every pitcher is basically, one wrong step away from being out for the season. So, yeah, I am definitely buying this. Again, I mentioned it Wednesdays. I've said it before. This is when I do the trade chart. This is when I really hone in on my rest of season rankings. He is going to continue to move up, probably pretty significantly, because there's not a lot to dislike about what he is doing. The strikeouts are there now, even better than they have been in his career. His walk rate, pretty manageable, not maybe like the very beginning of his career when he was a real control pitcher. The best thing I like, Joe, again, is we are forced because of the legitimate situation here with the sticky substance issue. And, you had Glasnow. Sticky. Speaking out about it yesterday, what I like to see right now is you see a lot of weird things kind of going on with it. His spin rate was fine. His spin rate, his velocity, fine yesterday, looked as good as ever. So, yeah, this is somebody who, again, I'm pretty excited about. And you mentioned all the time, Joe, where it's like, feels like it's like 150 years old, but it's just he came up when he was a baby. And so this is nice to see him sort of learning to be more of a pitcher rather than just a thrower.
And he came up in a bad organization in Seattle. I mean, so much of it is talent, and then so much of it is where you end up. And it's even more so in the NFL, but in Major League Baseball, it's the same. If you're an organization that doesn't know how to foster and breed good pitching, this is what happens sometimes to young guys, especially if it doesn't foster and breed the right attitude of a pitcher too. All right, so Cody Bellinger in the Downs hit the IL with a hamstring strain. It's so frustrating. All these guys who come back and then they go right back to the IL with like leg issues after oblique issues or whatever they're having. Max Scherzer hit the IL with the groin inflammation. Hopefully we'll send him some Manscaped stuff so he can make sure that he shaves it. Maybe that will bring down the inflammation.
Groin inflammation, by the way, is a very, very uncomfortable injury to basically just talk about, just because it sounds
that's
like
why you need the crop exfoliant and the crop reviver.
There it
is.
It
makes everything all tender and nice down there, Max. So let's get Mad Max some crop stuff.
Yeah.
And lastly, of course, Tyler Glasnow partially torn UCL. Now. Yeah. Look, here you go. I'm going to set this up for you because this is a very important discussion. I saw somebody yesterday post, I've got Bieber and Glasnow and Pineda. My life is over. Somebody tweeted at me yesterday. I think you were on that as well. With Tyler Glasnow in a keeper dynasty, what do I do? I was like, you're not going to see him until 2023. And the guy said, what are you talking about? I said, look, realistically, only Tanaka in recent memory, maybe one other person did that whole rehab thing successfully. Now, here's the issue we have with this. Realistically, he's going to try the rehab thing, and 6 weeks from now, he'll probably end up having Tommy John. That's the realistic pathway, which means that at best, maybe you get 4 starts in September next year just to prove that he can come back. That's not going to help you in a fantasy perspective. He is potentially and most likely gone until 2023. Welcome to Major League Baseball. And then he came out and he had some choice words about, well, you changed the stuff on me, MLB, and that's why my elbow's now giving out. And you know what? Maybe it's true. Maybe that had something to do with his comfortability, or maybe it was a mental thing, or maybe he started gripping the ball harder because mentally he didn't think physically he had a good enough grip on the baseball. I saw last night, Dan Harris, something stunning. I watched Pedro Martinez, one of my favorite pitchers, if not my favorite pitcher to ever live. He was on MLB Network, and I happened to catch this thing that he did with the rosin bag. And I had made this joke the other day about why does nobody go to the rosin bag anymore, right? He's like, all you need is rosin bag and sweat. And he went over there and he used the rosin bag and he had like a little moisture and he was like, look, see? And he was doing this thing with his fingers. You could hear the fingers and how tacky they were compared to the other ones. And he said, that's all you need to do. It's the same thing. He said, it's all just mental what these guys are doing. He said, but the rosin bag and sweat, and all my life, I mean, in 80s baseball, you would have thought the rosin bag was like a 8-ball cocaine. They had that thing all over their arm, and you know what they would do? They would go to their arm, because their forearms would sweat in the summertime, and they would get that tackiness. That's what they would do, right? And I just feel like, that's it. It's there for you. Let's stop making mountains out of molehills. Let's stop making excuses. You got hurt. I know it sucks, but that's my 2 cents, and I know it's like a bigger issue, so I want to kind of turn it over to you. That's my big rant about this whole Glasnow thing. What are your thoughts on this injury and the epidemic of pitching injuries, again, that continue to get worse every year?
I have a little trouble, just a little, not a ton, but a little trouble with we were allowed to cheat for the entire time, and suddenly you said we can't cheat, and now I'm injured, and so screw MLB. I have a little trouble with that, with the understanding that, yes, pretty much everybody has been doing it for a long time. I think that there are certain things, like the fact that MLB has changed the baseball, okay, this is what we're doing with it now, this is what we're doing with it here. It did sound like, at least for a point in time, it was a little harder to grip, so I understood the need for sort of something. But I do think the fact that everybody kind of, not to equate it to the steroids thing, but it was like everybody was doing it, so, I'm just going to take what I can to get a little bit of an edge. And then to take it away, people are freaking out a little bit. So whatever it is, I think this is nuts. I also think that MLB did not need to do this. I think they really could have just been like, look, we're going to cut down on spider tack or whatever it is, or maybe pine tar.
But give them something then. Right. Let's compromise.
That's fine.
Or teach these guys. Look, guys, in the 80s and 90s, the rosin bag with sweat would do enough. And I can't, if it's good enough for Pedro freaking Martinez, then it's good enough for you. That's all I want to say to everybody. I'm sorry.
Well,
I know everybody's different,
think,
but come on.
Well, Pedro's also maybe the greatest pitcher of all time, but regardless, I understand what you're saying.
But think about Pedro. Think about Pedro being undersized.
Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine Pedro nowadays? People will be like, oh, that guy won't last 8 innings, right?
He also had the longest fingers of
he
all
does have
time,
the longest, freakiest fingers ever, and they do bend in a weird direction.
Correct.
You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
But think about that, but also he's a great pitcher, and he also made a great point too. He's like Matt Harvey's still trying to be Matt Harvey. He's like, he needs to become a finesse pitcher and change his routine, change his motion, change his delivery, and halt and stop and do things like that. He needs to throw people off balance and start becoming a pitcher. And that's what Pedro did later in his career when he didn't have the fastball, and he still had some good years with the Mets later on, and then eventually he showed up with the Phillies too. Like I said, when the greats are telling you, yeah, you can do it, I'm sorry, everybody should shut up and listen to it. And Carlos Rodon like then spouting off about, oh, okay, so now like we're gonna get a 10-game ban, but the Astros didn't get anything who knowingly cheated. You know what? You're not wrong, but you're also getting a paid vacation because they're not taking money away from you. They're just banning you for 10
Well,
days.
well, I didn't realize, by the way, just you have to play down a man. Did you know that? Like, you don't get to replace somebody on the roster.
Because it's a starting pitcher, so they figure that you just skip a start.
It's true, but you're down a spot. That is at least something. But I think the bottom line is this. I think it was Passan who said it, but I think somebody like put something out there that helps pitchers grip the ball that everybody can use, and that's it. Like, right? Even if it's more than the rosin bag, even if it's something like
they did. It's called the rosin bag.
But even if you give them a little more or something, I don't really care so long as it helps them get a grip, and that's all people can use. So it's a dumb situation, but you do have to monitor now because it's very clearly it could cause more injuries and it could cause a downturn in performance. I am actually worried about Trevor Bauer, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer can make all his funny YouTube videos about it all too. Tim Jackson has a good point too. He's basically saying here in the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, they probably should have waited till the offseason. And you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
They should have. They should have waited till the offseason to implement this and just sucked it up. But, and yes, Greater Than Zero did say Gooden and Strawberry probably went through a rosin bag, quote unquote, per game. But yes.
Yeah.
But look, it's the truth. And there was a reason why those guys did it, because when you would see them, and again, like I know, like I played the game, not everybody played the game, but you watch pitchers and you see them, they would load up first they'd load up the hand, but then they would always load up the arm. And the reason they load up the arm is because you get the sweat and the rosin, and it makes a tacky substance, that combination of the moisture and the rosin. And it's just, look, there's things you can do. But most importantly, too, I think the bigger picture, and we're going to get to all the other things, but this is important because this is kind of affecting your fantasy landscape with these pitchers right now. It's also, I think, indicative of what we've come to, which is these kids who are pitching all year long, as they're getting older and growing into their bodies, by the time they get to their mid-20s, their bodies give out. This is just a truism. And I've talked to sports medicine doctors. I've had Dr. Tommy John Jr., Tommy John's son, who was a ball player and now a sports medicine guy, on my show. I've had him on. He's a brilliant guest. And he talked about all year-round pitching. He talked about these kids coming in with shoulders of 40-year-old men when they're 16 years old. And he's like, it's crazy what he sees. And this is why you're getting it. You're getting guys who are not playing all different sports. You're hyper specialization. They're playing all year round. They're pitching all year round. They're pitching for high school. They're pitching for travel. They're pitching for Little League. And they all have rules, except for the fact nobody's checking anybody's rules when they go play for some other team. This is an epidemic. It's a problem, and it's affecting our game. And it's not the guys like the Scherzers of the world. Those guys are fine. It's this young crop of pitchers who you see, like Giolito, when he's 18 years old, having Tommy John surgery. This is going to be the case until we change youth sports a little bit. It's going to continue to be like this. So that's all I can say.
Joe, we are 13 minutes into this show, and we have not yet talked about what happened yesterday in this show.
And yet we've done all baseball. Yeah, you know what? But this is it. But Dan,
no.
this is it.
No, it's
this
not.
This is baseball right now.
This is baseball. I understand, Joe, but when we get on a news, show,
that's
and
okay.
Stuff like
I
that,
can do the injuries in one breath again. So, all right, let's get off to the rest of it. All right, Luis Castillo was good last night. 7 shutout innings, 7 Ks.
Yeah, that's what people want to hear about.
How about Patrick Corbin stepping up when everybody's hurt? No Strasburg, no Max Scherzer, no problem. Patrick Corbin, 7 Ks. Don't get too excited, kids. It was against the Pirates. Let's not go and pat ourselves on the back too much. Frankie Montas, 7 innings, 8 Ks against the Angels. Ryan McMahon, 3 for 3. He's got 16 homers, having a nice season. Dallas Keuchel, 7 shutout innings. Kyle Gibson versus the Astros, good again. He's just been what a roto god he has been this year, Kyle Gibson. And Rafael Devers, who I continue to say is the only other guy I think you can put in that AL MVP category. Another homer for him. 224 of his 502 career hits have gone for extra bases. That is a great stat. Is that a you stat or a Mike Mayer stat?
Well, if it's a great stat, it's
got to be Mike Mayer.
Well
done, Mike Mayer. Shout out to Mayer on that one. Trevor Rogers, 6 Ks against the Cards. His ERA is now under 2.
Yeah.
Kim matched him, though. Good start for him. 1 run. There was a pitcher's duel out there.
Yeah.
And Chris Flexen was flexing 8 shutout innings against the Twins. Who saw that coming? So
yeah.
Your thoughts on these good ones? Is it safe to go out and Luis Castillo again? I guess that's the question.
I hesitate to say safe, but yeah, pretty much. 18 swinging strikes in this one. He looked much better. Now, it's against the Brewers. We talk all the time about the Brewers, so, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he's starting to get things back under control. And look, it was a 2-start week for him this week for the, most likely. So yeah, I'm sure people had to go out on a limb and start him, and they should now. And look, people ask me, and I don't know how you felt, Joe, but it was Castillo versus Blake Snell before the start. It was Castillo versus Blake Snell. Wasn't that close to me anymore. Like, I felt pretty confident that it was Castillo at this point because there's at least something I can hang my hat on there. There's not that much difference. Snell's all over the place. Can't find it.
Yeah, but I mean, he's all over the place. He's bad on the road and good at home.
Yeah. I mean, he is. Again, you put a little more stock into that than I do, but I understand you're right. But
hey,
Castillo,
70 innings into the season, I'll put stock into it.
Right. I need like 8 years.
You need like 3 seasons of it.
Right.
Wow, okay.
Luis Castillo has been really just, you've been watching him. Changeup is good. He's oddly enough, he's not approaching every game the same. Sometimes he relies more on the changeup, sometimes more on the fastball. But either way, I do think you can pretty much buy into it. Not where he was. I mean, coming into the season, he was probably a top 15 pitcher. He's not there or anything, but he definitely is moving up. Frankie Montas, I watched this start. It was really, really impressive. When his splitter is on, it's really, really good. He's never going to be. I don't think he's going to get to that point where I thought he had actual potential to be, which is like, oh boy, this guy could be a dominant starter. Like we saw a couple of years ago before the PED suspension, like we saw somewhat last year, Joe, before the back injury, as you and I both talked about. I don't really know if we're going to get there, but man, when he is on, he throws a bowling ball up there. It was an at bat against Ohtani, right? And who I think homered later in the game, but he threw him a splitter and he missed, and they threw him a fastball and Ohtani took it, and he tried to go upstairs and Ohtani took it, and the announcer was like, just go back to the splitter. He thinks it's a fastball and he can't hit it, and he just went splitter, swung right over it, splitter, swung right over it. That splitter, if he leans into it more, which he should, he's just basically unhittable when he throws it right. So I'm excited about what I saw from Montas in particular, and if he can stay on this roll, his ERA now is down to 4.21. That's not like crazy, but where it was, that's really impressive.
Yeah. It's significant.
I like what I'm seeing. I'm buying this from Montas right now.
You should. He might be the most important Oakland A in terms of their run.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the rest of the team, Chapman will figure it out eventually, I think. Olsen's been very solid. Lowry's been a good contributor. They're always going to find guys to contribute. It's Oakland. But if you look at the rotation, with Bassett and Manaea being good, it's Montas. It's what do you get out of that guy in the third spot? It's if he's good, then you're going to win more games than you lose. And I know it sounds like a very simplistic way. Well, you got 5 pitchers, right? And if 3 of them are good and the other 2 just give you a shot, you're going to have a good season. That's just the way Major League Baseball is. Also, something we didn't talk about too is, the Rays are in first place. Now they don't have Tyler Glasnow.
Yes.
From a wagering perspective, I mean, this was the gamble. They let go of Morton. They let go of Snell. Now they don't have Glasnow at the top. He's the horse. Rich Hill's a 5-inning pitcher. Yarborough, all these guys. I mean, what they do is very clever, but can they be clever and sustain this injury and still compete in that Eastern Division? Or is this the time where the worm turns and the Yankees and Red Sox start to smell blood in the water, Dan?
I tell you what is actually most interesting about it. I mean, it's a huge loss because he was really the one guy who went out there. I'm looking for it now.
He was the guy that you stop the law. Like, you go, well, we're going to win today. Tyler Glasnow's on the mound. They don't have that guy.
Exactly. And he was really the only guy who I'm looking for now. Sorry, to see if I can find it. But he was the only guy who would go out there and just be the horse, right? He was the guy who was allowed to go. So I'm looking because at Shane McClanahan yesterday, okay, so he set a season high in pitches. And he wasn't even that good yesterday. And again, he only threw 5 innings, but he threw 89 pitches. And that's kind of been a thing, right? Where they don't like to let these other guys go because they want to, bring in the bullpen and figure it out. Well, now you have your one horse, right? Your one guy who you basically are like, go out there, throw as many innings as you possibly can. We'll save our bullpen. You don't have that guy anymore. Nope, so are they going to let these... Right. Are they going to let the Rays starters go a little longer, which, by the way, could increase their value? We talk about it all the time, right, Joe? The people who tweet us, why don't they let Rich Hill go more than 5? Maybe they will a little bit, right? They might not
have a choice now.
I might not have a choice,
and
but
that's not good.
It depends. Well, it depends. It depends, right? Because you know how they roll. They don't like you the third time through the order. But at the same time, maybe you'll get a few more innings out of these guys if they can avoid sort of the falling off. But anyway, either way, I think the Rays pitchers, the remaining Rays pitchers, their value is going to change. I'm not sure whether or not it gets better because they're going to be allowed to go longer, or worse because they're going to stay in there for another turn through the rotation. But watch the rest of your Rays starters and think about that going forward.
All right. Since I finally got her, I haven't done a good rant in a long time, so we were overdue. You were overdue for a home run. I was overdue for a rant.
We were overdue.
So to make up for time, shall I do all the injuries in one breath again?
I enjoyed it. I don't
12.
know. Go for it.
All right. Ready? Here we go, boys and girls. The injuries from yesterday's games and yesterday's baseball. Tyler Glasnow has a partially torn UCL. Cody Bellinger hit the IL with a hamstring strain. Bryce Harper left last night's game after tweaking something and swinging. Max Scherzer hits the IL with a groin. Sorry. Chris Bryant left the game after getting hit by a pitch on the hand, and he left and x-rays were negative. Tommy Edman was scratched with torso tightness. Tucker Daverson left with his forearm tightness. Kyle Tucker and Moncada both out with illnesses. Anthony Rendon missed yesterday's game with a strained tricep, but will avoid the IL. Matthew Boyd hit the IL with a left arm discomfort. Nick Madrigal out for the year, and Mitch Haniger missed another game. Okay.
Well done.
Nick Madrigal out for the year. That's a bummer, too, because he was starting to make some progress with the bat a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we were joking. A buddy of mine texted me yesterday about the fact that it was like, man, the White Sox, they're just cursed. And I was like, yeah, they're going to have to find somebody to make up for the one home run for the year that they're not going to get from Madrigal. Now, to be fair, he certainly hit for average. But yeah, look, I don't know. But kudos to them. They're still getting it done. And I don't know if they even feel an immediate need to make a trade because, you know, the Twins aren't threatening. I don't think the Indians are really for real. So they'll find a way. But yeah, they really hit some bad luck here.
You know who else finds a way? Manscaped. That's right. Manscaped always finds a way. The Lawnmower 4.0 will always find a way into your heart, and hopefully it finds its way into your hands this Father's Day, because if you go to manscaped.com and use that code leading off, you will get 20% off and free shipping with our code leading off. So easy to do. And plus they've got that very special package for your package, the ultra smooth package. That's right. It's got the Lawnmower 4.0. You got the crop exfoliator. You got the crop gel. You got the It's Time to Shave crop shaver. All the best in the business in terms of manscaping. So like I said, head over to manscaped.com, 20% off free shipping with the code leading off. Your balls will thank you. All right, before we get to the DFS, shout out again. I don't know. I think we should just kick Dr. Glenn out. I feel like that's, he shouldn't be in the competition anymore. We just got to move him up. But no, Wonky Penguin has now tied me at 7. Dinger Dan got his home run. So now Dr. Glenn's at 9. Wonky Penguin is tied with me at 7. Dinger Dan Harris at 6. That's the leaderboard. Yep. Let's get to, if you've got some questions in the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, you drop them in there. We'll try to get to them here because the DFS slate is not the biggest one tonight. There's some day games in there tonight. So the 8 games tonight, you got Garrett Cole at 11K on FanDuel, 10.5 on DK going against the Blue Jays. Then you got Jacob deGrom against the Cubs. First start after leaving a little early. Now, he is all the way at 12.2 on FanDuel and 11K. With the injury, this is a fade for me on the top of the board. It pains me to say it. There's actually somebody in a game later on we're going to talk about I think might be a better investment than all these guys. But what are your thoughts on Cole and deGrom? I'm going to fade that 12K. I really am. That's a tough one, man.
It is tough. I'm probably going to go with it, though. And the reason is because even if he leaves early, unless he leaves within the first 3 innings against the Cubs, man, I mean, you could be looking at 5 innings, 12 or 13 strikeouts at that point, right? I'm not arguing against fading.
No, it's what you can do around that. And as a perfect example, like last night, I got that performance out of Taijuan Walker, but because baseball is a game of failure, with 70% failure rate for the good hitters. Yeah. If nobody hits a home run in that, you only get that one pitcher. If he doesn't get the win too, it all of a sudden, what kind of offense can you put around that? I actually think it's more doable on DK if you want to roll with that.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I also, I mean, you're great at this. This isn't as much on FanDuel. Like there always are cheap guys that you can find, and there still are, but there's not as many right now as I look around that I'm like, ooh, because there are some pretty decent pitchers going today. So it is a little tougher than usual to go with a really, really high priced pitcher, in my opinion anyway, on FanDuel, especially given the fact that there's risk involved. If there were no risk, it's just easy with deGrom for me. But I understand fading him. I'm probably not, but I completely understand it. And I think Cole is even against the Blue Jays, even with the sticky stuff situation, I think Cole is a fine option as well.
Aaron Savali's at 9K and 8.9 on both sides. Ian Anderson's 8K on FanDuel, but he is just 7.5 on DK. I like him on DK as a secondary arm. Same with Desclafani. It's 7K against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I don't know if they realize they're still playing baseball. No one's told them. It is a bad scene. They're going to break a record here for losses on the road.
It's last crazy. Night, I mean, just
it's ugly.
They had it.
Then, dude, I was on ITL with Bogman yesterday, and he's a Diamondbacks fan. It was between this and the Glass Now thing. It was quite a bitch fest. Let me tell you, it was pretty amazing. We had a good time. The stacks of the day, I like Houston, New York, and Atlanta. Those are the offenses, and I would go back to that Minnesota Seattle. Well, again, there's some value there. But it's the pick a side game. It's the 4 outcome. You're already shaking your head, but
I know what it is. And
it's Zach Wheeler. It's Zach Wheeler. No Bellinger in this lineup.
Yep.
Zach Wheeler's at 10.8. He's just 9.6 on DK against Clayton Kershaw, who's 10.2 and 10K. I know it's on the road. I know it's the Phillies. I know it's the Dodgers. I get it. I think Zach Wheeler is a fascinating play tonight in your cash game and tournaments. I think you could play him in both. Especially at 9.6. I mean, come on, man. That is a gift. You got to take that shot.
It's at that price on DK. It's very hard to get away from it. He's incredible. He is absolutely incredible. There are no concerns whatsoever about him. But again, he's going up against Kershaw, and against I'm sure Harper will be out with the back. So you've got a really weakened Phillies lineup here. I don't know, man. It's really tough for me to go near this game, but. On DK in particular, at the very least, you are right that the price on Wheeler is just too tempting to ignore.
You got to take a shot on it. If you want to go the other way in a lineup and have Kershaw just to cover yourself, that's fine too. Here's some questions before we get to the lineup builders. Meniscus Twistus. How confident are you in Cole against the Blue Jays? Mostly confident. I mean, I'm starting him in my season long, but I don't know if it's worth the investment in that ballpark and all the stuff going on. I think, it's not necessary tonight. That's my feeling. And then Jordan's got one here for you. Matt Manning, who is going to be making his debut for the Tigers on Thursday. Is he worth a pickup to you and a start at that?
I'm not starting him. That's for sure. I guess you're going to pick him up, but you're basically trying to ignore the 8.07 ERA that he has right now in AAA and just basically being like, okay, let's see what happens. So he's fine for a pickup, but I wouldn't start him right away.
Just 8.07. That's it.
8.07. He is at a very rough. I know Tuma. This is where I wish Tuma was on the show because Tuma would probably talk for 6 years about that. Matt Manning,
and speaking of prospects, Jesus Sanchez also getting called up again. This is kind of his moment. Look, to me, if you have him in Dynasty, this is the point where you could sell him off because his stats in AAA have been great. If you don't believe in him or you're just frustrated at this point, he's been in 2 organizations now. Maybe you just move on. The value's never going to be higher. Maybe he's a quad A player. Maybe he's better than that. Maybe he has a good first week or two. We shall see. But this is kind of, I think, the what or get off the pot moment for him. Let's move on to the lineup builders. Iser, Kiner, Falefa on FanDuel, 2.8. Austin Riley, 2.8, hitting cleanup. What? Dominic Smith, who had some good at-bats last night, even though that first one wasn't good, later on he did have some good ones in some big spots. I like that. 2.7. Miguel Andujar, 2.5. He's been swinging a bat too. Ty France, 2.8 on DK. Verdugo, 3.8 on DK. Andujar also cheap on DraftKings as well as FanDuel. 3.1 for him and 3.9 for Brantley. Not a lot of value on DK tonight. So you're going to, it's why I kind of look at Wheeler, Desclafani, or Wheeler Anderson is kind of the way to go, which brings us to that time again. It's time to call our shot. I'm going to go with Jordan Alvarez tonight in Houston. Let's hope that the big boy can get me back on the board because now I am the cold one here, whereas red hot Dan Harris, where are you going for your dinger this evening, my friend?
You guys should know that what I do is I peruse the slate. I look around. I come up with my home run call. I go on to the show sheet. I go to put mine in, and I'm like, what's the chances that Joe is taking this guy? The chances today, I put it at 90%. I was correct. Alvarez was my guy. I can go with the same guy, I know, but I don't like to do that. Let's go with another one. So I'm going to Stanton against Stripling. He's 2 for 5 with a bomb in his career. Obviously, the wind is blowing out a little bit. I think the Yankees are going to have a nice game here against Stripling, who, by the way, I do like generally as a pitcher this year, and he's got a 2-start week next week, so I wouldn't be too worried if he gets bombed, but I do think Stanton's going yard tonight. That's my call.
And Dan, if I were somebody that wanted to get involved in the home run calls and in that contest, what would I do?
I might go to fantasypros.com/chat. And by the way, I love it because people come in and they're very funny. There is I'll just make it clear because I know people are like, where do I go? What do I do? How do I get my home run call? There is a channel in Discord, home run calls. That's where they are. That's where they are made under the MLB grouping. So you go right there. It's always popping. And again, the thing that I love about it is when Tatis went yard, everybody celebrates like it's a big thing. Like it's a huge thing in there. So again, fantasypros.com/chat.
All right, and don't forget too about that Shohei Ohtani baseball. Thanks to our friends at pristineauction.com. Go to fantasypros.com/MLB contest. And all you got to do is drop that review on Apple Podcasts or CastBox. You screenshot it, you upload it to fantasypros.com/MLB contest, and you're entered to win the Ohtani ball and anything else we want to send your way. And join us in the Discord chat. It's been a very busy 2 days for me with podcasts, as Dan knows.
Yeah.
And some NFL content for the site. So I will be back in Discord today and there to chat and continue to rant about things. But look, all I can say is yesterday we made a comment, and by we, I mean me, about offense is going to start to carry your teams. Take heart with that. Look for strikeouts. Look for, I know it's going to sound crazy. Alec Mills looked really good in that start, and they took him out way too early. Those kind of pitchers might be the guys to get you by in leagues until some of this stuff kind of straightens itself out with the injuries. That's all I've got. Any other parting shots for you, Dan Harris?
No, man, you hit it. It's going to be weird. Just be prepared to see some changes, some more offense, some more injuries from pitchers, and roll with the punches, man.
Changes, turn and face the strange changes. Man. You know what?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Time may change us, Dan Harris, but we can't change time. So that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Dinger Dan Harris, I'm David Bowie. We'll see you next